What's good as a hobby but terrible as a profession? Baking. I love to make bread and cakes, but on my time. I couldn't imagine having to wake up at 3 a.m. every day to start making bread. Hobbyist collecting. I've known two people who grew up loving comic books, so they opened their own comic book stores as adults. It's not just that 90+% of comic shops tend to go under for lack of business, although that's certainly true. The other reality is that the customers are, if possible, even more demanding, opinionated, and rude than customers in other retail stores. Chef. It's fun to cook for friends, but the general public sucks. Cooking maybe? I love to cook, but after doing it for work, cooking stuff I don't even like making, for 12 hours a day, I get home and make myself microwaved ramen. I get so burnt out on cooking. Crochet and knitting. I'm constantly being told, you should have a business doing that. But nobody will be willing to pay for my time. They'd only be willing to pay for materials if I'm lucky. For example, a double bed-sized blanket in a relatively simple stitch would take me 170 to 200 hours, basic yarn approximately 40 pounds to 60 pounds. I'd be lucky if the customer would pay 50 pounds to 80 pounds. It's the same for a lot of handcrafts. I was literally, jaw on the floor, the other day when I saw designer, crochet LTER top being sold for 600 pounds. I'd be super lucky if I got 15 pounds to 20 pounds. Wow. Woke up to all this. Thank you for your upvotes. Throwing kisses, and thank you kind strangers for my first awards. Throwing kisses. Well, would you look at that? Turns out the answer is everything. Anything to do with horses. Bowling. Unless you're good enough to be in the top approximately 20 in the world. The top earner in all of 2020 made $293,000 from the PBA Tour. The 10th highest earner made $71,000. Only 16 made more than $50,000. From there it just keep dropping to where the number 50 earner only made about $10,000. You also have to pay for each tournament you enter. If 300 bowlers show up for a tournament, you need to finish roughly in the top 100 to even make your money back. It's just too hard to go all in on. Most pro bowlers either run pro shops or give lessons when they can. Dancing. Most dancers get paid shit, they break their bodies throughout their lives, and have to retire very young in most cases. I'm a composer and I don't really see my music doing money, and there are two reasons for that. 1. The music industry is very large and I see that a large number of artists and groups are competing for a small place on the top. Everything seems unpredictable, too many variables, too many possibilities, and I don't feel like risking my chances at it. 2. My style simply isn't mainstream. For now, I'll just keep learning and doing it as a hobby, and maybe I'll please some people one day. Yo-yo. Building computers. Used to be a great hobby for me back in the day, but once you work in a place that troubleshoot and maintain them, you get tired of the constant monotony for spec-ing out the layout and hardware, software install and updating, making sure connections are seated properly, etc. Took all the fun and wonder away. Writing. For some people it works out, but most things are never popular and not usually anything enough to support yourself. Photography. Sort of once it becomes your job, it really quickly loses a lot of its charm and the customers can be very, very annoying at times, although I do admit sometimes it is freaking fantastic as well. It does depend on the subject though, I suppose. Ooh. This is relevant after this past weekend. Coaching, are generally working within youth sports. I have a million horror stories I could tell. Most centering around parents, adults. Only train one night a week now, and have limited my services to purely training teams, versus some of the admin or multi-night roles I've held in years past. Nightmare fuel. Had to reduce to a pure training capacity because the more I interacted with adults around sports, especially already having a full-time job, the more I'd just be bummed out whole weekends at a time. I think most hobbies are terrible as professions. I'm a home brewer, and jobs in breweries seem pretty stressful with long days to meet market demands, without a great pay. Video games. Seems like an absolutely horrible industry to work in with crunch time and constant demands up the throat. Building custom motorbikes and hot rods. Someone asked me why I don't do this for a living since I'm so passionate about them. I answered that it would turn a relaxed hobby into stressful work with budgets and deadlines and the kind of piety I plan and build them with. Only Jeff Bezos could afford one if I plan to actually pay myself a decent hourly wage. Anything directly relating to entertainment. That includes making music, movies, video games, sports, whatever. If it's anything that tons of people have a passion for because it's fun, that's going to translate into people wanting to make a living out of it, and thus the market will be very crowded and competitive. Filmmaking. I spent about 7 years trying to work my way into the filmmaking industry. It was very fun at first, but I have found, at least in California, the industry is filled with scumbags that would sell their own mother to make some quick cash. I figured eventually I would get to meet the real artists that are passionate about what they make. Turns out that's just how the industry is. I also at some point realized I was no longer in it for the right reasons and I was starting to become a scumbag myself. Now I work in IT and make home movies with friends for fun and I am much happier. Home improvement. As a hobby you can take your time, do research, spread the cost, and do it right. As a profession, it's feast or famine. You are competing with every dickhead with a pickup and bids can be all over the place. You never know what you are going to bite into when you start a demo. Does this bathroom have 1 layer of wallboard or 4? Is there rot under this dishwasher? You want to give the best product to the customer, but the good enough meter is all over the place. I feel MMA as it's fun to train and learn, but unless you make it to the upper echelon you're fighting for pennies. Same with kickboxing and boxing. I had a sparring partner, his first pro fight he took a flying knee that split his wig. He made like $100 and was in the hole for like $60K. Made me give up on any professional aspirations. Collecting anything. You wouldn't make any money because you keep what you buy. Science. You turn from inquisitive to a professional, jaded beggar. Digital drawing. I enjoy it as stress relief, and at least right now while I'm still kinda learning my style and discovering different techniques, methods, I don't think I do well under deadlines or stressing about client preferences, demands. Not to mention all the art stealing that happens online. I just like doodling fan art and OCs for my own enjoyment and posting them if I feel good about it. Ironically, I am sort of working on a comic as a passion project, but I don't really want to hit it big or make it a career. I just want to tell my story, ya know? This thread makes me think that everything sucks when it becomes a job. Science. No matter the field, science is awesome. But holy hell is academia flawed, in every country. It basically burns through researchers. People are underpaid and overworked. They are exploited as much as possible. If they got paid any less or made to work any more, the system would collapse. Everything. Once you have to do it, it no longer becomes fun.